Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
which
it stands,
one nation,
one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty
and justice
and justice
for all. All right. All right. Thank you, everyone. Before we begin, I'd like to remind the community that the board welcomes public comment at our meetings, and you'll have an opportunity to speak after the superintendent's report and the board member comments. It's item number 6 on your agenda. If you'd like to speak, please raise your hand virtually in the Zoom session and state your name and address so that we can recognize you. If you'd rather not have your comments spoken, please add them to the chat, not questions and answers, and we can read them for you. Your comments are limited to 3 minutes in order to ensure that all interested parties have an opportunity to speak. Please limit your comments to one topic per session, and please do not identify any staff members or students by name. We're very happy to hear from you, but at tonight's business meeting, it shouldn't be expected that the board will respond, but your comments are vital, and I promise that we will do our very best to follow up. So thank you very much. And as a preview, without spoiling the plot for tonight, tonight's meeting will be short on motions, but I think long on some good information, a lot of news on hand, and other prospects for the future. And so with that, I'd like to turn it over to our student representatives from hand. Isabel, if you'd like to start.
Sure, I'll go ahead. So recently we had speaker Mr. Greenberg come in during Wellness Wednesday, and he presented to half of the juniors and seniors, and the other half are going to hear that presentation tomorrow. And the feedback has been super positive. I had friends who were kind of like, oh, a speaker, I don't want to hear a speaker. And then they went to the speaker and they were all like, wow, super cool. And I was very surprised because that doesn't often happen with high schoolers, but it did. So he's got to be good. And we're working on a plan for trimester 2 testing, and it seems very surprising. I feel like trimester 2 just started, but we're almost at the end. See, it's just flying by, but I think that's about it. There's not much today.
Yeah, so tomorrow's an exciting day for sports fans in the high school world because the winter athletic season, the games are starting tomorrow. I know I'm excited, even though my first one was postponed to a little bit later on, but all the games are being broadcasted through NFHS network. So all the parents can go watch, all the family members that usually can't go and watch are able to go online and watch the games because there's no spectators. So I know when I'm going to get to play, my grandparents in St. Louis are going to get to watch, and that's going to be a first. And the CIAC Sportsmanship Conference, which all the captains of all the sports for the winter season, and I'm not sure about the other seasons, but for sure the winter season, the Sportsmanship Conference will be tomorrow during the school day. So we'll go over all the proper etiquette of how to be a good sportsman, like we have not already been already. We've all have gone through this in the past, and it's just a good pat on the back, kind of reminding us to keep doing what we're doing.
Does anyone have any questions for either Isabel or Eric?
Would you guys like to comment on the snow day now?
Yes, the consensus for everyone, not just us, everyone at school that we've heard is that we love the snow days. I know I'm happy to know when my graduation is going to happen instead of it getting pushed off all the way into like the end of June. So we all like how it kind of is a little bit of a break, but we still get the work done that we need to, and it doesn't get tacked on to the end of the year.
The day also just feels a lot more fun knowing that it's like, even if it's a remote learning day, because it's like shortened, it's like special and cool. So all the teachers kind of put like a fun spin on it. my teachers try and keep the workload a little lighter, like they crack jokes more during class. It's just like a lighter atmosphere for the day. It's very nice.
Well, thank you very much. I think it's nice to have that mix and not to have school pushed out until July. I may have messed up the agenda, and I'll ask our parliamentarian, Greg. Should we go ahead and include questions from the public right now rather than wait till after the superintendent's report?
Is it, yeah, on mine it's listed as number 5, is that right? Or is that the error you're pointing out?
Yeah.
I have it as item number 6.
6. Yeah.
Isn't there usually a portion at the beginning though for public comment and then a second opportunity later?
Yeah.
That was
Is
my.
it only on here once, Emily?
I only saw one afterwards, the audience response to information presented, but I feel like we usually have an opportunity at the beginning of the meeting.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like-
Correct?
go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry, excuse me. The school community session is when you normally,
Right.
the item number 2 on the agenda is when you normally ask.
Right. Yeah. So my mistake, and I'd rather err on the side of inclusivity. So are there any members of the public who have questions? I mean, maybe you can tie it in the snow days, but it could be anything at all. And we'll have another opportunity at item number 6 if it's too disjointed. And going once, going twice. Do we see any speakers? All right. Well, again, we'll have another opportunity item in a few minutes to, if you do have questions or comments. Any further discussion or questions for either Isabel or Eric? All right. Hearing none, let's move to Dr. Cook's report, the superintendent report.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Colley. First, I'm going to turn it over to Gail Dowling-Hench, who's going to introduce one of our teachers who's doing a very exciting engagement project with families and working through the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving. It was really a exciting endeavor that Sherry Farmer is going through, and we wanted to share that with the board. So, Gail.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Cook, and welcome to Sherry Farmer. I've had the opportunity to work with Sherry a lot this year, and I have to say, she's an incredible positive energy in our school system. Sherry is stationed at Jeffrey School. She's a special education teacher by day, and at night, Sherry attends her program at UConn to become a school administrator, and she's actually coming to the conclusion of that program. Early in the summer, Sherry approached me and said, Gail, I have to do a change project, and do you need any help on the reopening committees? And I said, I've got a lot of people on the reopening committees, but I have a Barbie Dream House project that I would love to include in our reopening plan, and I need someone very special to lead it. There could be no greater individual to lead those efforts than Sherry. She took on my Barbie Dream House project and made it into an incredible success and keeps it growing. So I'd like to just thank Sherry in advance for all of the work she's done and give her the opportunity to share with the board the success of her program. So welcome, Sherry. You're on mute.
There we go. Thanks, Gail, and thank you to the board for having me tonight. I just want to take a couple minutes to tell you about the project, and then I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. So just to give you a little bit of background about the Change Project, at the end of our actually our second year in the program, we're asked to identify some area of change, either within our home school district or our mentor school district, and come up with a positive change that we believe could impact and support students. So like Gail said, she and I met at the beginning of summer, and we kind of determined that, during the COVID shutdown last year, it became apparent through a lot of the data that we had collected from parent surveys, discussions with parents, with teachers, students, that there was support needed in several areas in order to navigate the new COVID world. So I'm just going to share my screen with you all. And let me just move this out of the way. Get to this. Okay. Nope. Done. All right. So at the end of the year, like I said, we had sent out a survey that identified some areas of need that parents said that they wanted more support in at the beginning of the school year. So a committee was formed that included all of the schools in the district, and we prioritized those needs from parents based on their responses and identified 6 parent webinars, which you all know we presented from September through November. The areas that parents said they would like more information and more help in regards to supporting their students, whether it be through online learning or in the classroom. After we finished those 6 webinars, we did a follow-up survey in December in which we asked parents for feedback on what they liked about the webinars or any changes that they would like to see moving forward. We got an overall positive response on our webinars, but we did get some feedback from parents that indicated that they would like to see more in-depth topics discussed, and they would like for us to go and give them more information in certain areas. The 2 areas or the 2 groups of parents that we heard from the most were our kindergarten parents and our junior and senior parents. And those parents indicated to us that at the kindergarten level, they really wanted more support in what they could do to help their students develop foundational literacy skills. Our high school parents indicated they wanted more information on how to prepare their students for life after high school, that college preparation process. So based on the high school parents' information, the questions that they sent, the areas that we identified in working with the guidance department at hand that we felt we could support parents in were Naviance in regards to the parent side of things, how to pay for college, how to prep for college, and then the college selection process, question and answers in regards to that. What we'd like to do to facilitate these is have a group of parents and students who have graduated from HANS, who have gone through this process from 9th through 12th grade, that can really answer parents' questions, that kind of been there, done that kind of questions for parents. So TJ and I have actually been working together on this, and this Friday, because again, we really want this to be parent focused, we're going to send out an e-notify, and we're going to let the parents know that based on their December feedback to us, these are the areas we've identified, but we would like specific questions they have in relation to these topics so that we can really tailor these webinars specifically to what our parents in Madison need. The guidance department identified Charles Wehrman from the Valar Financial Group to come in and speak. They've had him in as a speaker before, and they said that parents gave a positive review of his talk. We are also, I did check with his group and asked if he could submit parent questions and have Charles answer those as well. And they said, absolutely, he could follow up his presentation with those as well. For our kindergarten parents, we are looking at presenting 4 videos to our kindergarten parents. We're going to use our Google Classroom as the platform for doing this. Our reading coaches and kindergarten teachers are actually going to be doing some really fun videos. These are going to be games and activities that parents can do, not lessons that they're going to teach their kids, but things that they can do at dinner, in the car on the way to soccer, fun ways that they can reinforce all of the learning that's happening in the classroom with their children. After the video is presented each week, a packet is being developed and it's going to be shared that's going to have all of those games in it that parents can have easily at their fingertips. The parents are also going to get a book, and this is where the part of the grant's going to come in. They're going to get a book that's going to be introduced in that video that they can use to work on whatever topic it is we're working on that particular week. In addition to that, we're going to have an online library that is going to give them access to all of the other books that we recommend to really help create that equity for parents that might not be able to go out and purchase those books. They will have online access to the read aloud version of all of those books. So in order to make all of this happen, we need about $3,000 for the books. And we would like to give some incentive for our families that are going to participate in our forum at the high school level. So we are going to be looking at giving $50 gift cards to RJ Julia to those participants. So that's going to be about $1,200. So I was able to write a grant through the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving, and it has been approved, and they would like to gift Madison the $4,200 for us to make this project a reality. So really exciting. I know I spoke quickly. I'm Southern and I tend to do that anyway, so especially when I'm nervous. But I'm happy to answer any questions you guys might have if there's anything that you'd like to know more about.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I don't really have a question. I just want to say I think it's great. Not only that our district is going to be able to have access to this, but that in a year so filled with so many challenges, Sherry, that you went after this and are able to deliver it to our district. So thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to second that.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. This is a great bit of
I
work.
have a quick question. So the webinars that you plan to do for the high school level, when are you expecting to start them?
I can't see who's speaking.
Oh, this is the
Diane, is that you?
Yes, it's me.
Diane, okay, great. Okay, great. So we'd like to start them in March, Diane. We'd like to run them 3 Thursday nights in March. I know that TJ and I have spoken. There's one week that we're kind of taking off the table because it's going to be a pretty busy week. I think the 8th through the 11th, we're taking that one off. But the other 3 Thursdays in March, we'd like to run that. And then we plan to follow that up with another quick survey from parents to see, is there anything else they need? Anything that we haven't answered that we need to provide for them after that, those webinars are presented. And we will be, just like the other webinars, we will be videoing those and putting them on our website so that parents that aren't able to join us for the live session can join at a different time, because Gail and I found that we were getting not a ton of attendance at the actual time, but we were getting lots of hits after. So I think parents can utilize that maybe when their kids go to bed or when in the morning with their coffee and things like that.
Thank you.
I'd just like to pop in really quick if you can. I want to thank you. I think this is a really helpful program that you're offering, and the presentation is really enlightening. I love the online reading library that you're offering for the kindergarten parents. And one thing I know, those of us who are more engaged in our children's learning now when they're doing remote, we know more about what we don't know and how we can better help our children and our learners. I know just listening to my 2nd grader in school, I'm hearing more of what she's doing, and that helps me know what I don't know, what I could help her with better. So I love these resources, and I think having the opportunities to have them recorded for folks at other times is also very parent friendly. So thank you for this great work.
Thank you.
I want to concur with Emily and what others have said. Sherry, this is amazing. I love how you targeted these 2 groups, which are truly, I think, all over, in education right now. It really is the areas that the groups that really do struggle with the big heavy hitting things that happen during those formative years. And I love that what you're doing with the kindergarten parents, it will give them, along the lines of what Emily was saying, that sense of efficacy, which I think that they're really missing right now. They want to do the best for their child, and I know parents all over the globe are struggling with wondering if they're doing it right. And I just love the access that they'll have to the videos when they need them. I just think this is fantastic. So for a Barbie dream house, I mean, it's got the elevator, it's got the furniture, it's got the rugs,
jacuzzi. It has the jacuzzi.
wallpaper, it's got all the stuff that I always wish that my Barbie dream house would have had. So I have to say, really home run, Sherry. Nice job.
Thanks, Kathy.
Gail, and I have a question, if I may.
Sure.
Yeah, Sherry, congratulations again on this work. My question's about the survey. Is this, would you recommend that this survey be something that could be instituted or re-administered on a yearly basis?
I'm sorry, Tom, was that for me or for Gail?
I gave it to Sherry since you designed it, but I wonder if you and Gail had discussions about whether this is something, is its design broad enough that you would say this is something that you would recommend that the district administer each year to solicit that kind of response from parents? Or is it not designed?
Well, Gail and I hadn't talked about that, but I know that the idea of a change project is for it to be ongoing. So, you know, I would definitely defer to Gail for that answer, but, you know, I would love for us to, you know, continue this thought process. I think it's been great.
What we did, Tom, was we actually looked at when we were surveying parents for other purposes, and we tagged on questions on the end to do with the parent webinar series. So we're trying to avoid survey exhaustion, but we're trying to be very careful about where we place our surveys, and also that we're responding to our surveys and the information that we get from our surveys. So I think Sherry mentioned that we surveyed at the end of last year, and we gained some insight into where to launch this project this year. And then we surveyed again at the end of December, I think it was November, end of November, with another grouping of surveys that we put out about distance learning. And we're actually getting ready to do another set of surveys that will be coming up in the next month or so. So hopefully we're pacing them correctly. So we're getting good feedback, and parents are giving us some information that we could do something with. So I do see that as an important role in everything that we do. We do it with climate, but more so now than ever in order to create that partnership.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Are there any
Well, thank you all for your
questions?
time.
Thank you.
I want to congratulate Sherry again. Thank you, Sherry.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, okay, next up, Dr. Cook, you still have the podium.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Sherry. That is great. I love the piece that it's, you know, addressing kindergarten and high school at the same time. And, you know, kind of to echo what Tom, I think, was referencing, is just look for ways to make it sustainable. You know, are there ways that we can, whether it's a future budget request or grant, you know, other opportunities to keep it sustainable going forward. I think that would be great. So thank you. Just a few things from my report tonight. I did want to share that, as board knows, with our grant with interactive boards, Art Sickle has put together a committee of teachers, technology staff, and administrators to review interactive boards, and has completed that work and has given a survey to the participants to provide some input. It was really an excellent committee, and I watched the meetings online that he had done, as well as some presentations. So thank you to Art. We'll have some information soon, and I would look forward to bringing the selection to the board to share with you what direction we're going in. My hope is that we can install the boards for that grant in Polson and Brown over the April break. But we'd be utilizing the same through our budget purchase as well. So I'm hopeful to share that with the board. I think it's really exciting. I think our staff was very energized through that. We received word very early this morning that the district's now able to put our staff members who are 65 years old and older into the VAM system, and we did that, and we notified them, we gave them a heads up, and so we're hopeful that they'll be able to access vaccinations through the state system. We may, if we have the potential, look at doing a site here in town as well. I know the town is continuing to do vaccinations on Thursdays in a closed group format, but this would allow our staff members in those age groups to access vaccinations throughout the state. And so I think it's a sign we're moving one step closer, and so that's a real positive. As well, I did, and I was asked, I was planning on it to share some information around snow days. Certainly, as with most things with the 2021 school year, we've been thrown, more options and more curveballs than normal. The ability to go distance learning has been something, as you know, we've utilized a few times. Certainly today was probably a miss. We would have liked to have been in session, but just a reminder, we have to make those decisions by 5 a.m. In order to let the buses know. And our indication for today was it was 1 to 3 inches of snow with a potential to overperform in the 5 range. And it was throughout the day, along with some freezing rain. And so it really seemed to be a situation where we could have a potential impact both coming into school and leaving school. And then when I talk to area superintendents, as you may know, everyone from Guilford, and this is the group we speak to, everyone from Guilford to Waterford, and then several just northern that we border, were out today, and they had made that decision as well. And so I think it was pretty common actually throughout the state. We heard from our student reps that they enjoy that day, but I do struggle with any time we give up instructional time. We do want our students in school, and I think this year in particular, they do not like to be out at especially the elementary age, but it does give our high school students a little bit of chance to make up some work and be there. So I responded to several emails today, of course, and that's not atypical. I think you received some that we should have called Monday's delay earlier, and then I received some that why did you call today's event earlier? Why couldn't you wait until So we definitely deal with both sides of the coin, but again, we do always try and keep our students in school when possible, but safety is always a major concern on our end. And the weather reports we get are not always perfect. We understand that, but we try and do our best with that. In terms of the other agenda items that we were asked to address, the board, and this is a common question I've received, understandably so, is what is our position? Where do we stand on Hand High School being fully in? And it is something we talk about every single week, multiple times. I speak with TJ quite often about that, and we speak with the health department and look at that. Our goal is eventually to have a full enrollment in the school, but we are not there at this point. Certainly there's some indications and that there's a variant out there that has us concerned, and how that would potentially impact our school and students being fully in. The numbers in Madison have improved recently, but we are still in the red. And so when we started the school year off, indication from the state was if we ever got into a situation where we had a red designation, that means over 25 positive per 1,000, that we should limit the amount of students in the building and try and put more mitigation strategies in place. I think that's all changed. And so those are conversations I've had with families when they ask us about, should we have a target number or an indication. It's very difficult to do that, I think, with how things are going in our state and kind of where we stand. But things are starting to look better. I think the vaccinations are helping. I think that our town is practicing good social distancing, as indicated by where we stand in terms of area districts, and we stand in pretty good place for that. In terms of the information presented, I did send a memo to the board that is part of the documents available online, and so I just wanted to share where things stand with our students. Right now we do have about 25% of our students that are opting for remote learning. That's not atypical in the districts that I talked to. Some are closer to 50%. But at the high school level, 25% is about average from what we are seeing. And so cohort A, we have 332 students in person. In cohort B, we have 274 students. And we have another group of students, 112, that attend every day. I think our procedure where we have cohorts in on Wednesday alternating is unique. I shared some information about where some of our area districts are. Many do take that Wednesday as a full distance day. And so I feel like we're doing pretty good in terms of giving students as much time in the building as possible. I think that was a creative way to do that. I certainly can't take credit for that. That happened before me, and I think it's a great move, and how that works. Some of our smaller area districts are full in, but again, some of those have the 50% opt out. But certainly districts of our size, I think we're getting more days in. We did have a closure in November, but we have not since, a lengthy closure. And so that's been a big piece. The things that we talk about on a regular basis are contact tracing and when we have cases. Obviously we have, had some cases at the high school, and if we were in a position where we were all in, we would certainly have double the students and potentially more staff members, and that would impact our ability to run the entire building. One of our biggest issues is lunch and how to handle that. And I think our high school administration has been very creative in ways to do that. They've extended the lunch to 5 lunch waves a day, and so that gives us some chance to spread out. But in the winter time, we've lost our ability to go outside, and that seemed to be a very safe and popular option for the fall. When I visited in the fall, I saw many students eating outside and having a chance to distance and still have conversations with their friends. Another area we're concerned with is the hallway traffic. It's very, very difficult to manage that at a high school when we are trying to give up as little instructional time as possible, as well as our classrooms. Currently we're through, depending on the classroom, about 3 feet apart, and that would really decrease if we had all students in our high school classrooms, as all of our classrooms are, but high school classrooms are definitely very project based, and students are up and about and working together and doing a lot of interactive things, and it would be difficult, as well as when we get into some of the bigger classes. And so we look at band and in chorus, the students online are able to participate, but if we were all in, we'd have to have them probably in a different part of the building, impacting again those areas. So I think Gail and TJ and Liz for working on this document with me, presented that to the board. We're all available to answer questions. TJ is with us tonight to be able to do that, but I just wanted to share. In terms of a target, it's very difficult to put like a target date on it, but as we look at it, we would like to end the year with all students in if possible. And so we had talked around somewhere around the April break as a potential target. We know the weather will look good if things continue on the track that we've recently been updated. Our staff members would be vaccinated by then, hopefully, and we'd be looking at much better numbers, I think, statewide if things continue as they are. That's all, again, to be determined if we see that the variant is causing issues and it's much more readily passed through air. We are concerned on how that would still look for lunch. So I think we have to continue to update the board and see where we're at and have further conversations on that and work with the health department as well. So we're available for any questions the board might have on that. Oh, one other piece, I'm sorry. I have been asked a few times by families is why we don't cohort by grade level. And as you know, several classes are, many classes are mixed throughout. It might be freshmen with seniors in some classrooms, and then in others, they're mostly juniors or seniors. And so that has been considered, it was considered, I previously wrote a reopening plan. I know it was considered here in Madison as well. The problem with that becomes that several classes would have, a 24 in, so a senior laden classroom, would have 24 students in on a certain day, and then another day there'd be no one in that classroom. And so it would be, much less consistent of the current situation we have. Our current situation, for the most part, when you walk through the building, there's about half of the enrollment per each classroom, and so it's much more spread out. So I wanted to share that with the public as well.
My question is, do we have a certain outdoor temperature or weather conditions that we would be putting the tents back up outside of hand to allow that as an option? I know I find it very odd, but our high school students don't seem to really care that it's cold. Most of the boys are wearing shorts and no one's wearing a winter coat. And so I think, given the option of more space with outdoor tents, obviously when it's blizzarding, that's not an option. But do we have a sort of time frame where we're thinking tents can go back up so we can spread out more and possibly go all in with that?
No, I think you hit it on the head right there at the end. It's really wind and snow. I think temperature, that's all been reshuffled now, right? I mean, even as adults, we were willing to eat outside on days we would never have eaten outside a couple years ago. So that is it. Bill McMinn worked closely with the principals and the tent contractor in terms of when he took those down, but he wanted to be ahead of the snow and the wind, and they're expensive, and so we didn't want to ruin them as well. But I think as soon as we get past that time frame that we think they'd be damaged, we want to get them back up, because as you said, I think students would go outside with like shorts and a light coat, hopefully. Sometimes it's not even that, but they'll go outside and eat.
Dr. Cook, my question is about, so right now with the all-in for K through 5, families still have the opportunity to do distance learning if they have concerns. When and if we go back with the high school, will that also be a possibility there as well?
Yes, and that's where I think we have to be really mindful of when and if that happens. So if we were to do that, my sense is that 25% would grow to a higher number, certainly if we're in a position where things don't look better than maybe they do right now today. I know these aren't exact science or numbers, but I don't think that's not out there. It hasn't been provided to us. But my sense and what I've heard from some families is that they would opt out if we only had that option. That they would have to go all in or out. And so I think that 25% would grow, and that's not really what we want. We want for that to decrease. And so, I think that we saw that increase around the holidays when people were traveling or concerned with other people traveling and coming back. And then we've seen it, start to come down a little bit. So I'm hoping that we can decrease that number as we move forward. And that is something I think that, later on, as we get closer, we could find out where families feel about that, through an informal or through a survey, but a non-binding survey just to kind of see, where they feel if that were to happen, would they choose to opt out?
Thank you.
Diane?
One of the issues with having all of the hand students go back in is the hallway. You said the traffic in the hallway would be significantly increased and risk of spreading the virus. But in thinking of how much time the students spend in the hallway between classes, they only have 4 minutes. So, I mean, that's not even considered, a close contact, even if someone was positive, because you'd need 15 minutes. So I don't know, how much that really is impactful.
Yeah, so, students do congregate. Certainly, it's from my understanding is it's really viral load. And so, it's not like you can stop, 14 minutes, you step away and then you can come back and you're okay. It could be that viral load throughout the day. And so we could see, the virus spreading, with just increased contact through that. And, it's very hard for the high school administration's done a phenomenal job of doing the contact tracing along with Liz Battaglia. And so they've really done a good job of, minimizing that, but it would create, I think, more issues throughout the day.
Would they be able to increase the ventilation anymore with the increased number of kids? Or are we already, pretty maxed out with that?
My understanding is we're maxed out on that.
I just wanted to jump in and say thanks, Dr. Cook, for the report. And I think any scenario in which the high school students can spend the last couple months of the year all in would be fantastic. So I appreciate that there's some hope there at the end of the year that we can hopefully look forward to.
Thank you.
I just, Galen, if you don't mind, I just wanted to go back to snow day situation again. Because I think one thing that I've noticed too, Dr. Cook, is with the online, it takes a fair amount of extra work for teachers as well to redesign their lessons, especially I'm thinking of K through 5, and I don't have, or K through 8. But I think that is part, I would assume is part of the decision-making as well, giving teachers the opportunity to kind of redesign those lessons for an online format.
Absolutely. Our teachers are working incredibly hard. Many districts have done half days every week, even if they're online, or like I said, the Wednesdays off, and we have not done that. So I think the teachers in Madison have really worked hard this year to do that, and we're certainly hearing some stress from them as well, understandably. I think it's been a long school year, and that's also part of the thought process of not using necessarily traditional snow days. Is we get to June, I think there'll also be a lot of fatigue, and I think people will be ready for the 2021 school year to come to an end, take a break, and come back in late August and start again.
I know. I have another question. So I know that there was people asking about the decision for ever having a full snow day, like that very first one that we had. I'm sure that loss of power is going to be a factor in that, but I know there was concern about like when it would be called and when you would decide that.
Yeah, another reason why I can't wait till next year. I think it will be much easier to define it. So if the state says next year we cannot do distance learning days as one of the 180 days, Madison would still have 3 days that we could go distance, and that would give us a little bit more time to kind of think about the year and not use those up front. I know from my superintendent colleagues, they were disappointed that they had said the first 3 would be snow days, or the first 4 would be traditional snow days, because they had that, the situation a week ago, we had a Monday and a Tuesday, and they would have loved to have done, some distance learning in there. I think a lot of things go into that decision, and that's why I have been replying to every email I get on it, and hopefully, giving a little bit more information out there about it. It's so hard to kind of just share it. But when we looked at last week, we already had days that were impacted with student conferences. And so, it just felt like we were losing so much instructional time. And so we if those were 2 traditional snow days, the time that our elementary students would have had in learning, last week would have been really, really minimal. And so, that came into thought of the process. Another thing too is, last Monday was miserable out. And so 9 to 1, I didn't feel like our students would be out playing in the snow. They probably would have been on a different screen. They would have been watching, TV or playing video games. I didn't, I thought that the chance to get a day in, and still give them time to get out in the afternoon. And trust me, as I drive around town and even just look out my office, window, kids love to sled here, and they're very busy and active, and it's great to see, because it's a safe thing when they're distancing right now. So I want to give them that opportunity as well. We're just trying to find the best balance, and we have a long weekend coming up. We do have a lot of breaks in the calendar, and that teachers will tell us that consistent instructional time is very important to them.
Well, February may be a short month, but historically we get a lot of power outages and snow days in March. So
yes, yeah, there'll be more opportunities for me to explain myself. And redeem myself. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, hearing no further discussion, Dr. Cook, do we have anything on potential facilities, potential building, an update there?
Yes, I would see this being a standing agenda item, at least for the immediate future. But I did want to share some of the work we are doing around potential building project. The board has been working on this for quite a few years, and we're excited to be able to pick this back up and start and move it forward. So some of the things that Bill McMinn and I are working on as we go, and other staff members as well, we have commissioned a full enrollment report, and so we're anxiously awaiting the results of that. We've asked to have that sped up a little bit. It's typically a 4 to 6 week time frame. We commissioned that about 2 weeks ago, but I think that's going to give us some interesting information, especially considering recent changes to the housing market in Madison in a very positive way. And I think, as I've shared before publicly and with the board, that we're seeing some enrollment uptick, albeit slight for now, but I think we're going to see that continue. We have also taking a look at the educational specs. So basically, the specifications of what a new building would look like as we consider, a pre-K to 5 building for us to look at. So we've started to look at those, and those will need updating. And so Bill and I have a weekly meeting with Colliers going on. I look forward to giving the board updates and the public updates coming out of those meetings in terms of that. So those are the 2 big pieces that we need before we can move forward. I have been doing my tours of PTO meetings with the buildings, and that's been a common question throughout. And so I'm excited that the community is really in tune. It has not always been me bringing that forward. It's been part of a question and answer period. So I think that there's a lot of attention to this, and the public really wants to know the status. And so I just wanted to keep the board aware of where that stands. It's all I've also had conversations with our first selectwoman, Peggy Lyons, about this, and keeping her informed about the board's position and where we're going. So we will continue working on that, and as we have more firm information, we'll share that with the board. But I can answer any questions you might have on that. Okay. All right. So, like I said, we'll keep you updated. As it's very, very exciting work, and I'm really pleased to hear the level of interest from the community as we're out with the PTOs and talking at the school level. That will be important for us to continue.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Cook. Are there any other moving to item 5? Are there any other board member comments about the report, discussion, anything else that would be on your mind that you'd like to bring up? All right, hearing none, we can then move to an audience response to information presented. If anybody in the public has a question or comment, please feel free to speak up or have your question read. And we'll monitor that.
Yeah, there were a couple of questions in the chat, and if anybody would like to speak, it would be great if you could do that now, or indicate if you want us to read it, because we don't really use the chat because we want it to be part of the public record.
All right.
Galen, we do have someone that would like to speak.
Hi, this is Catherine Ferrante. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank
Yes, we can hear you.
Thanks. Hi, Catherine Ferrante. I live at 71 Cops Road. I have a student, an elementary schooler. Dr. Cook referred to some documents earlier that are online that you were discussing today. Where are those? Are they available to the public? I was trying to look for them, on the Madison Public Schools website, which is pretty hard to navigate.
I can speak to that. They are documents. So when you hit our link to the to our agenda, there are documents that are available to the public. I had actually answered you. I was trying to speak with you so that I could actually email you that document.
Oh, thank you.
If you could just indicate to me, if you could answer back to me where I could send that to you.
Sure.
And then at that time, I'll also indicate to you where you can find documents.
Thank you. Another thing that Dr. Cook mentioned was at the time of the reopening, and I believe it's still up on the state website. It had the yellow, red, for over 25, and what measures should be considered or taken in the municipalities and school districts. And I believe you said, Dr. Cook, that that's all changed now with regard to that paradigm. And I'm curious as to what has changed other than there actually being more cases and more transmissible variants out there now. I would think that we should be going back into the more precaution-laden zones, however you want to describe it. Are you able to respond to me? I don't know how this works, sorry.
Well, typically board members won't respond because it is a business meeting, but I feel very comfortable having Dr. Battaglia or Dr. Cook address any concerns. And in any case, we'll follow up afterwards if you do have further questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And feel free to email me if I don't cover everything you were wanting to hear or know about. But basically, when I say that, when I look at where we were in August, we started in hybrid, many districts did, or they delayed the opening, and the numbers were much better than they were, say, in November and December timeframe. Certainly, a lot. We delayed sports until October. We did many things, and we were in a much better position, but the different categories, the red category has stayed the same. You know, we haven't moved that. I think what we know better than we did in August is that there's not real clear transmission in the school buildings, that mask wearing is really effective. And so by doing so, that we're able to keep, you know, students in school, and we know how important that is. And so, you know, Madison is just barely still in the red. I'm hopeful that maybe in, you know, a week or two we will drop out of that. But we were, you know, pretty firmly in the red not too long ago. So, you know, it's just something I think as we've learned more, you know, that if we were in that position in August, we would not have, you know, we would not be in school at all. You know, I think because we didn't know as much as we do now. I think that the state would set it up differently if they were doing it, but they've stayed with the same, you know, numbers. Liz, anything you'd like to add to that?
Yes, I just wanted to add that, you know, when the state originally came out with those guidelines, that was prior to us going back to school, right? At that time, nobody knew what to expect. I can say from the Madison team, all the administrators, all of the nurses, when there is a positive case, we immediately contact trace, we quarantine so that we can keep schools open. The DPH for Connecticut has also stated that there's been minimal school-to-school transmission, even with these new variants at this time. So it's truly one of the safest places to be because we always have mitigation strategies in effect, including mask wearing, social distancing, as well as barriers.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your detailed responses.
You're welcome. Thanks. Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak, or does anyone else have a question? I think that about does it then. So thank you very much.
Galen, I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry, Galen.
I see a hand up.
Oh,
I
good.
do
Thank
too.
you. Yeah, good. All right.
Tina.
Hi, I don't have, oh, sorry, Tina Phelan, 75 Bradley Corners. I don't have a question. I just wanted to let the board know that I appreciate the shortened virtual days for our family. And that Dr. Cook was at our PTO meeting this morning at Brown, and I wanted to thank him for that. And I let him know earlier, but I wanted the board to know that I appreciate them. I know that there's a lot of chat on social media, and I feel like it's just the people who are unhappy about it. And so I'd hate for, you know, what I see as a good thing to be ruined by you guys not knowing how others feel. So I just wanted to thank you for the virtual days. I think they're great.
Thank you. And I'm finally getting the hang of the virtual hand raising. Tom, do you have a question or comment?
No, I'm sorry. I was playing with the icons down here. My fault.
Just when I thought I had it. All right.
I agree with Miss Phelan for what it's worth. I have a 17-year-old, so.
All right.
We're testing you, Galen. We're just seeing
That's
if you're
right.
on your toes.
It's coming in at all angles. But I'll let Wendy. Wendy, do we have anybody else with a question or concern?
I don't see any other hands raised.
All right, going once, going twice. All right, we can always address it later in the meeting if it's urgent. Well, right now that leads us to the board, to the consent agenda. There are no line item transfers to report, but we do have a budget expenditure report as of February 9th, and that is in our board packet. Fairly detailed report. We need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved, Greg.
All right, thank you, Greg.
Second, Katie.
Katie. All right. Is there any discussion? All right. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 8-0. Thank you. And now we can move to the board committee reports. First up on the docket is Diane with curriculum and student development.
We have not met, no report.
Short and simple. Thank you. Communications with Dr. Pellegrino.
Communications is not met, no report.
All right, Emily, you are next with facilities.
Yes, I do have a report. The Facilities Committee met via Zoom February 2nd. Our first order of business was to discuss the facilities building project, as Dr. Cook alluded to. We discussed that in order to move ahead, the priorities are to select a possible date for a referendum, to review and update the budget, and to get an updated full-scale enrollment report, as you heard, should be coming in the coming months. At this point, we aim towards possibly a November 2021 referendum as a goal, pending, of course, town approval, with also a goal to apply for state funding and state grant for June of 2021. Colliers will work with Mr. McMinn, our facilities director, to update the budget accordingly, and the enrollment report, as you heard, has been commissioned. Dr. Cook also informed us that he received a recommendation to meet with the State Building Commission in anticipation of a referendum, and South Windsor has again offered a site visit if the board is interested. The current state reimbursement for Madison would be 18.36% for new construction. And as many of you know, this reimbursement is a formula based on town wealth, and it varies town by town. In order to move this process along in a timely and organized manner, the committee did request that Mr. McMinn provide an updated timeline and Gantt chart like last time, and we plan to review this at the next committee meeting in March. Mr. McMinn also reminded the committee that there will be additional factors that we will need to consider this time around related to the town facilities study, the development of a town shelter, and possible land acquisition. We can also look back at the work of the Tri-Board Working Group, as they did review, as many of us recall, dozens of possible options for school configurations, which led us to our proposal last time. The Facilities Committee also discussed security funds, and we will plan for a board executive session in March with Dr. Cook and Mr. McMinn to review how the funds will be spent. Dr. Cook also provided with the committee, as we heard tonight, a brief update on enrollment and birth rates in advance of the new report that was commissioned. As you heard tonight, we are expecting a larger kindergarten class probably next year, and will likely need to add a class. The rate of births to residents in town has increased over the last few years, from 80 to 90 births per year to residents prior to 2017 to well over 166 births per year in 2018, and then 118 in 2019. Birth rates are projected to stay above 100 births to residents per year looking ahead. And then this growth is in addition to new families moving into town with young children, usually right around kindergarten age. So these trends will be important to keep in mind as we plan for new buildings. Finally, we ended our meeting with general facility updates from Mr. McMinn. He reported that the facilities focus this year is on daily operations and maintaining clean and safe schools. Usually there is time for future planning and projects, but this unique school year, of course, has required prioritizing daily operations and school maintenance with heating, ventilation, and the optimization of fresh air, critical areas of focus. Summer projects that Bill looks ahead to will include technology and security measures. Based on a question, we also did discuss the grant-supported water bottle filling stations. They will be installed as soon as they arrive. Last we heard they had not yet arrived, but they will be installed during non-school hours to minimize disruptions to learning time. So it'd be during a holiday or a break, whether that's February break, which seems unlikely, the March day that we have off, or the April break. A question was also raised about how to keep up with airflow and heating with our increased ventilation. And Mr. McMinn did report that since we have doubled the amount of outside air in classrooms, we can expect that heating costs will be higher in the colder weather. Our next meeting is on March 2nd. thank you for bearing with me. We had a very productive meeting. End of report.
Yeah, no, thank you. That was incredibly informative. It integrates a lot of critical factors that we need to consider as we go ahead. So it's a virtual roadmap to some of the decisions that the community has to make concerning either a maintenance plan or new facilities. And there's a lot to digest and discuss there. So if anybody has questions or concerns or wants to discuss further, please feel free.
I'm guessing there's going to be a huge bump in births soon, post-COVID.
You never know.
Or divorces.
That's the other flip of the coin. We did also discuss, as it is going to be a very busy year looking ahead. We do meet monthly as a committee, but that there will likely be additional meetings scheduled as the work of the facilities committee and the referendum and building projects ramp up. So you can expect to hear a lot more from me and my committee members, Katie and Happy.
Great. Thank you very much. All right, Katie, a tough act to follow in finance.
Oh yeah, it's not nearly as stimulating as Emily's report, but it's exciting nonetheless. The Finance Committee met this evening, and we were joined by Art Sickle, who was able to provide the committee with an update on the status of the food services. Unfortunately, the district is running at a deficit that's projected to be approximately $475,000 by year's end. This deficit is due to a variety of reasons, including increased costs related to food safety, lowered populations in the buildings, not purchasing meals at various times because of cohorting, et cetera. Unfortunately, state and federal funding does not cover revenue loss, but the administration is looking for ways to cover that deficit, and we'll keep the board updated. Dr. Cook also informed the committee that the district has received a grant of $344,794 from the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act, which will be, thankfully, has a nice, generous timeline. We have until September of 2023 to utilize that funding. And it is also flexible in the way that we can use the money. We can use it for things like school health and safety needs, social and emotional needs of our students, remote learning, and classroom intervention and support, and more. The committee discussed the potential of using some of these funds to augment budget requests, and the administration will keep us updated on the use of this grant funding. Dr. Cook also provided an update on the non-resident tuition revenue, which between staff and non-resident students has accrued approximately $40,000. And finally, Dr. Cook and the admin team are working on the Board of Ed budget presentation to the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance. So this is a plug for both board members and members of the community to support Dr. Cook in his efforts as he presents the budget to our other town boards. That meeting will take place on February 17th at 6 p.m. and we hope that you will attend. And the Finance Committee's next meeting is on March 16th. End of report.
Great, thank you. That was excellent in the middle of budget season, very timely. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for further discussion about Katie's report? All right, thank you. Hearing none, we can move to Dr. McNerney. Violet, on personnel.
Nothing to report.
Oh, all right, thank you. Okay, then we have the tonight's policy committee meeting. It was led by Happy Marino, but she's not here. But I think, Violet, you've kindly offered to recap the meeting for us.
I will try to recap the meeting. We did not take notes. With that, the policy committee met via Zoom earlier this evening, and we began our meeting with follow-up discussions on policies 5131.911, which is the bullying prevention and intervention, and the 5131.914, which is the safe school climate policy. We discussed the adjustments that Shipman and Goodman made to clarify language around teen dating violence and acceptable changes. In addition to that, we had a discussion on Series 2000 audit from Shipman and Goodman. And Shipman and Goodman suggested eliminating and repealing a number of policies in this series. And we discussed policy 2110 as the board had referenced it in the past, and Dr. Cook suggested that he come back with some language to address the board's ability to discuss the number of staff in relation to enrollment and other factors. Additionally, we discussed and decided to divide the 2000 series into two groups and review. And when reviewing, we would do in subsequent meetings to provide the full attention. We also reviewed new policies resulting in the audit, and we'll pass all those on to the board for full review for first readings. And they are 1380, sexual offenders on school property. It's formerly the 2270, sex offenders notification. 2240, retention of electronic records and information, formerly education data record retention. 2280, which is uniform treatment of recruiters, as well as 2300, which is the holds on the destruction of electronic information and paper records. All those had passed, and they will move forward onto the full board for review for first reading. Lastly, we discussed mask policy and codifying the mask breaks within the policy itself. And Dr. Cook will make age-appropriate suggestions and language for the policy, and we will discuss and pass it through to the board to fast track at the next policy meeting. Please don't ask me any questions. Sorry.
I actually do have a question for policy though, but it has to do with our first readings tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was reviewing these, like I didn't know, usually there's like strike throughs or indications of changes, or, you know, that this is replacing a different policy. And I'm just wondering, like, I didn't see any of that on these policies, and I can't imagine that they're new policies. So I'm just wondering, like, was it language change? Was it like, what were the changes?
And
very often these policies, and I know Dr. Cook can probably speak better of this, they were Shipman and Goodman's, and they're the first reading. So we expected that everyone would take a look and give us input. And then we would, certainly need to make any changes or discuss, but they're Shipman and Goodman's. I think most of these or all of these were. We're not modifying anything outside of the recommendations from Shipman and Goodman.
yeah, and to clarify and for the public record, these first readings are listed in the board agenda and included in the packet, which should be linked to the website. So anybody interested or concerned can reference that.
There are 8 of them.
Yes. 8.61, 8.62, etc., through 8.68.
Thank you.
So I guess my question, like, to be specific, so if you look at policy 1370, the non-discrimination policy, like, is this the policy that was already in place? Is this replacing, like, there's no new and old versions to clarify what the changes are? If, you know, if this is, it can't be our first non-discrimination policy. So I'm just unclear as to how it's changed from the old policy.
So 13770 is brand new. There was not a public non-discrimination policy for the community. So that one is brand new. The other ones are updated and should have the strike through underline language on there. I think the first one is just a change of website for 118.1. Oh, no, I'm skipping ahead. Sorry.
I don't have any changes on mine. I think we accepted them as they were written.
If I remember from when Jean Ann was here, these were ones that we were kind of out of compliance with, and so they needed to be added, and she was really pushing to move them forward, if I'm remembering correctly.
There are visible changes on these though. So here's one example of a page with many changes, 4116.1, which in your packet should be about page 21. There are strike throughs and underlines on that. One of the ways you can always tell, and there may be a printing error or something like that, but one of the ways you can always tell is there's also a line along the side on the left indicating to the left of the numbers that there are changes. So can you see those, Diane?
Okay, because when I was looking through, I know some are printed, I have mine printed out and some are front back, but I didn't see, most of them, I didn't see any strike throughs or changes. So I didn't know if they were brand new policies or.
Yeah, you're correct, but Greg's correct. 4116.1, sex discrimination, sexual harassment. You can see lines 9 through 10 have strike throughs. So yeah, I mean,
there's one other useful designation that I always use because it's hard to keep track, even when I was previously the chair. If you look at the bottom of any given policy, so one of the first ones here that Dr. Cook just mentioned, so the non-discrimination policy, that's a few pages long, but if you go all the way down to the 4th page, I think, which is row 117, you can see that there's only a first reading listed, and there is no previous version of the policy. It's never been reviewed or adopted before. So usually if you see that, that's an indication that it's brand new.
Thank you, Dan.
and in any case, of course, we'll have a couple weeks cycles to go through.
And your report. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next up is 8.7 with the Learn Liaison. Katie, are you?
We meet Thursday, no report.
Thank you. Our Board of Selectmen, Scott Murphy, I think has attended 4 meetings today, all on town business, from this morning's Board of Selectmen meeting through tonight's. He had to leave a little bit early, but he did want to pass along that the Board of Selectmen budget workshops begin this Thursday, and that's the most salient issue. So that's basically his report. Our next item is a motion to approve the minutes of the January 19th, 2021 Board of Education meeting. Would anybody like to motion that?
So move.
Okay.
Diane.
Diane. Violet, second. All right. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion passes. Okay, carries 8-0. Is there any old business that members would like to bring up or discuss? Is there any new business? If you have any items for future agendas, please feel free to pass them along to our Vice President Greg, Vice Chair Greg, Emily, our Secretary, or myself, and we'd gladly include them. Future meetings and dates of importance are attached to your packet. And I think that's it for tonight. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Katie, second. All right, discussion. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Abstentions? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Night, everyone.
Good night.